Hello, I'm the Galladeiator, and did you know that I'm a gamer? Shocker, isn't it? In this video, I'm going to be talking about all the new games that I have played in 2022, which should add to a total of 7 games, so yeah, this video might be a little bit long. But before we get to talking about them, I would just like to give an honourable mention to the non-new games I've played in a quickfire round. Second playthrough was fun. I didn't necessarily complete everything, but I did do most of the side missions this time around, with the exception of the Riddler stuff. This was a streamed hardcore nuzlocke of me playing this game for the first time. I wasn't familiar with Gen 3 Pokemon mechanics, so yeah, this was hard. I lost to the 8th gym leader 1. I decided to continue halfway through a playthrough. I was actually playing through Super Luigi Galaxy, so that meant I finally 100%ed both Mario and Luigi Galaxy. Nice. I love DC. I love DC's as villains. I figured I may as well replay this game. Getting all the gold bricks is a pain, so I just set out of unlocking all the characters. It was in the N64 collection on the Switch, so I decided to give it a try. I stopped playing at chapter 4, but the game was pretty fun. With Trigger Conroy currently let's playing the game again, I'll be sure to pick it up again. I attempted a hardcore nuzlocke while watching through a show called Community for the first time. It's a good show. The playthrough on the other hand resulted in me losing the run to a rival fight on the third island. I desperately wanted to revisit my favourite Pokemon game but in a casual setting, and so I did while watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine for the first time. I had already done so many playthroughs of the game in the past year that I wasn't interested in going for the game again. Instead, I would just turn it on to solely swing around New York while fighting bad guys during the third act of the story. It's surprisingly very relaxing. A hardcore nuzlocke that I actually streamed. It's a great game for nuzlocking because you can get so many cool encounters. One of those being a sturdy Dwebble that knows Cell Smash, which can easily sweep through the champions' team. Nice. Leading up to the release of Scarlet and Violet, I decided to go back into the Pokemon mood by doing a hardcore nuzlocke while watching Stranger Things. I didn't lose or win, just stopped playing. And with that is all the non-new games that I played this year. Well, actually, I did play Mario Kart 8, Mario Party, and Mario Maker from time to time online with friends, but yeah, that's it. So, as for the new games, let's go all the way back to January with Pokémon Legends Arceus. There is something fun about being able to roam around an open area and catching wild Pokemon without having to actually engage in battle. Legends Arceus was definitely an enjoyable experience, but I don't think it was the game for me. When I was talking about Pokemon games before, I was constantly referring to nuzlocks, and Legends Arceus is the most anti-nuzlocke game. That's not a bad thing on the game's part, but it was just something that wasn't for me, as I've never been a gotta catch 'em all type of Pokemon player. I could go on with a list of nitpicks, but I won't. One major thing that I do like about the game is that it puts my favourite starter Pokemon Oshawott in the spotlight. They even gave Samurott a cool new Hisuian form. But let's take a break from talking about Pokemon and head straight on to Kirby in the Forgotten Land. Finally, a 3D Kirby game. A concept that Kirby fans have been asking for after 4 back-to-back side-scroller games. Is it good? Yes! It's a level-by-level game, so the formula is similar to previous Kirby games but with a lot of additions. The main example of this is upgradable copy abilities. Wow, what an amazing feature. The only downside is that it means that there are a lot less abilities than usual, but the fact that you can still upgrade them to make them more powerful is a really good sense of progression. The main collectible this time are Waddle Dees, as there is a set amount to find in each level. Additionally, each level has their own challenges to which on completing, you save another Waddle Dee. The challenges aren't hard. They usually range from collecting a certain item multiple times to finding secret areas. However, the real challenge comes from 100%ing the boss fights. definitely my favourite part of the game. Modern Kirby games never miss with boss themes, and Forgotten Lands is just as good. The beat the boss without taking damage challenge is fun because you can approach it in different ways. Use a copy ability that allows Kirby to defend himself without taking damage like Giant Sword / Ice, or use an ability that can quickly take out the boss like Dragon Fire / Masked Hammer. I'm generally not the type of gamer that goes to 100%, but with the help of online guides, I felt tempted to get every Waddle Dee in this game. The downside? Despite doing all of that, I never officially reached 100% because of that stupid motion control tilting minigame. So, we go from a really great game called Kirby in the Forgotten Land to an even better game, Xenoblade 3. My favourite game of all time is always going to be Pokemon 2. Sadly, I haven't played it in a long time due to not have a functioning Wii U anymore, but it's a game that's always treasured in my heart. Xenoblade 3 is 100% a contender for my new favourite game of all time. I haven't played the previous two entries, but I was exposed to the series by watching Trigger Conrose's in-depth Let's Plays of those games. I couldn't say anything about the gameplay, but I was always impressed by the stories in both. Xenoblade 3 then got announced, and I was tempted more than ever to pick it up and play it on August 1st. So I did, and I never turned it off until the end of the summer. I think I can just say this game is my personal game of the year. Its characters, the story, and I was impressed by how fun the gameplay was. So, what are the problems with Xenoblade 3? I don't really have any. There are some nitpicks, such as I don't like the idea of accessing quests from listening out on NPC conversations. It's annoying as the game doesn't specifically say if there is information to obtain for a discussion. Your only hint is more quests will unlock every chapter and also your colony affinity. If it's not 5 stars by the near end of the game, then the chances are there are still some quests you need to do. That's the main thing that annoys me though. There's still more positives, such as the music. Man, I love the music. There are literally a billion battle themes in this game. There are quest lines for each colony that tells a side story and tangent for the main story, and it's pretty cool how it all correlates to the game's main theme of live to fight or fight to live. I want to refrain from any spoilers as I heavily encourage you to play this game. You don't have to know / play the previous two to understand this. Wow, so how fitting that I go into the Xenoblade franchise starting at the 3rd game in the series, and then jump straight into the 3rd installment of Splatoon. Splatoon 3 wasn't really a game that I was completely interested in, but seeing how the game came out on my birthday, I decided, why not? Wow, this game's main story is so hard. As I'm writing the script, I haven't beaten it. For reference, I did every level from the beginning up to right before the big man boss fight. From the little that I played of it, I had a great time. The music was fun, the levels were challenging, which made it satisfying to beat. There's something special about having mental breakdowns all because you can't break all the blocks on the grind rail, only to realise that the reason you were struggling was because you chose to use the slosher. The online was fun, though I only did tier 4s. The other modes I'm sure are cool, but I just don't understand what I'm supposed to do. Clan Blitz? What's that? An issue of the online was the constant communication errors or disconnects from other players. It was always demotivating to play more. Eventually I ended up stop playing the game. I think it was mainly because I then had the edge to do that New Game Plus Xenoblade 3 playthrough, but I don't regret playing Splatoon 3 at all. So, strange story, but it was a few weeks after my birthday and my nan had yet to get me something. So we went to a shop and I got to pick whatever game I want, so my initial thought was I could get Xenoblade 1 or 2. They were not in stock. So out of curiosity, I got LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. LEGO games are fun, and so I figured this might be a fun game despite not being a fan of Star Wars. A week or two later I get around to actually playing this game, and wow, I think it made me a Star Wars fan. The structure of the game is very simple. You play through the events of the 9 main Star Wars films, 5 levels per movie. Within that, you have expansive worlds taking place in all of the iconic Star Wars planets, with many challenges / puzzles to solve. Upon completion, you get Kyber bricks, which are used for upgrades. As far as I know, this is the first time a LEGO game has an upgrade system, which is weird but cool. You have core upgrades, and then each class has their own upgrades. For example, you can upgrade damage dealt by throwing objects for Jedis. There isn't really a point to this. Combat is a concept that exists within the game, but it isn't necessarily challenging, as the main gameplay point is exploration and puzzle solving. Blasting stormtroopers and the occasional lightsaber duels are still really fun. Seriously, being exposed to the Duel of Fate in this game before watching the prequel films in full was a strange experience. If you like LEGO games, I would recommend this one. I personally never came back to this game after finishing the 9 movies, but it was still really fun. So anyway, let's talk about Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights was easily the most disappointing game I've ever played. I'm sad. Ever since they announced this at DC Fandom, I was excited. Back then I hadn't played an Arkham game, so I was excited to finally get close to experiencing one. Once the game got close to release, my hype died down, but I was still interested. Then official gameplay footage was showed, and all I saw was many people being rather unhappy. I tried my best to ignore it. Eventually I pre-ordered the game right before release and played it. Before I get to the negatives, there's some aspects of the game that I appreciate, such as the game does decent world building. The main premise is Batman is dead, and so now Batgirl, Robin, Nightwing and Red Hood have to patrol the streets of Gotham as they start of a case Batman never got to finish, which was solving the mystery of the Court of Owls. The world building aspect is great. There's a lot of general DC Universe references through emails that the characters receive. That's the only major thing I like about this game. God, there's so many questionable decisions, like you have to unlock the ability for better free roam traversal for each character. Imagine a Spider-Man game, but you had to get to 2 hours into the game to be able to actually swing. Crafting suits, weapons and range attacks is such a weird way to incorporate customizability. Most of the alternate costumes are just not good looking. The game has an emphasis on elemental effects, and so the idea was to equip yourself to combat an enemy's element. That's pretty cool, but then you have the combat in of itself which feels stilted. On the flip side, you have stealth, which is boring as you barely have any stealth options compared to an Arkham game. Anyway, the most disappointing aspect of the game is the presented villains. You have the Court of Owls, Mr. Freeze, Harley Quinn, Clayface, and the main villain, Talia al Ghul. When I found out that only Harley, Freeze and Clayface were the optional villains, I was mad. It just felt like a missed opportunity to not give each playable character their own villain for their side story. Out of all the villains, Clayface felt the most interesting. The idea was that he was believed to be dead after getting caught in a turbine during an encounter with Batman. He's now hiding in the sewers filming his side of the story as he believes to be the victim. It's cool. As for Mr. Freeze, you have a pretty set piece of a snow in Gotham. Freeze's characterization is bland. I'm pretty sure they tried something interesting with Harley Quinn, but my brain keeps thinking about that boss fight where the game pits you against 2 brutes while you have to go around disposing the bombs. Holy f***ing shit, that was internally painful. God, no, sorry, I just can't keep talking about this game. I've gotta move on to the final game. Yep. It's another Pokemon game. I think we're at the point in the franchise with every new generation the series ends up taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back. That just ends up being the norm of the series at this point. However, I will say that Scarlet and Violet are very good Pokemon games, as it takes the concept Sword and Shield's wild area, but expands it, effectively making the whole game open world as you can choose what to do in terms of fighting a gym leader, beating up a titan, or even taking down a Team Star base. It's effectively 3 storylines, which makes Scarlet and Violet a very story-focused Pokemon game. We've had Pokemon games with an emphasis on story before, but a lot of the time it can be a hit or miss as the story beats are used to pace the game. With Scarlet and Violet, there's no pacing issues as you can choose the flow of the story. There was one drawback to this being the Pokemon League of this game feeling very anticlimactic. Becoming the champion isn't the end goal of the game, but it is funny how Diantha from X and Y played a bigger threat than Geeta. I can't really speak on the new Pokemon as I barely used them. This is my main team for Violet. I just love how I was able to use my 2 favorite Pokemon in the playthrough. But of course, we have to address the Q-Fant in the room. Listen, I'm not going to pretend the graphics don't matter because they do, but despite the severe whiplash I got going from Xenoblade 3 to this was, wow, this doesn't look great. But honestly, I'm more pissed off that the TMs are limited use again. Why? Why would you do this? You can craft TMs, but that involves having to hunt down specific wild Pokemon for materials. It just feels unnecessary. Listen, hey. Scarlet and Violet are great. They are fun Pokemon games. Terrestrialize is a mindfuckery. So that was every new game I played in 2022. I think it's cool how I at least enjoyed every game except for Gotham Knights, which was disappointing but still a fine time. I'm not that critical on video games as I choose to think carefully on what games I want to play. Hell, I was even back and forth on Xenoblade 3 before getting it because I wasn't sure if I would enjoy the gameplay, but that ended up being fine. Wow, I do not know how to end this video. If you didn't know already, I am the Galladeiator and you too can join me in 2023 as I will continue to make videos on whatever I want, like left-handed scissors.